Natalie Jessup, good evening. Bob Uecker graduated from Boys Tech and Trade School. Today, it's known as Bradley Tech, and it's just a few blocks away from where we're standing. In his life, Uecker made a tremendous impact on Milwaukee. You've heard about it in this newscast, and you can see it over my shoulder with a Hone Bridge lit tonight in blue and yellow. He also left a mark on the life of one man we talked to earlier today who first met Ueck when they were kids. This,
and on Sundays we play football here,
used to be Bob Uecker's playground.
Bob lived on 12th and Meineke.
George Mustis vividly recalls when he first met Bob Uecker on the fields outside of Seaford School at 14th and Cherry.
He came up, he said, "Hey, you need a ball player." And we said, "You any good?" He said, "You'll find out." And he was.
He quickly recognized Uecker had big league talent.
He could fire that ball from one end of the playground to the other.
And he also got an early glimpse of the personality Milwaukee and all of America would come to love.
He was always like that. You know, we go out riding around in the country when they're teenagers. He'd see a cornfield, he'd say, "Stop." He'd run out and grab a couple of ears of corn and chomp, chomp.
Over the years, Mustis says Uecker was never a stranger.
I go up and see him at the ballpark every once in a while. You know, renew old memories. If we have a tailgate, we take some sandwiches up to him.
In fact, Uecker carried those memories.
He would mention our old ball teams, our sandlot teams on the radio.
Into the Brewers broadcast booth.
When my younger brother died in 1999, I called the Brewer office up. I said, the team was in Cincinnati, and I said, "Tell Bob his best friend died." And that night he talked for 3 innings in between batters about coming over to our house and eating that Greek food, and it mentioned the whole family and everything.
While Uecker was a family friend, Mustis knows why it feels like an entire city has lost a relative.
He said he's from Milwaukee. He could have gone anywhere. He said, "But I know where I am, where I came from, and that's where I'm staying." For many of the ball players who've passed through Milwaukee, Uecker is at the center of their Milwaukee memories. And that includes Carlos Gomez. He was the Brewers center fielder from 2010 to 2015. He talked to us earlier tonight from the Dominican Republic because he wanted to talk about how important Ueck was to his career. Specifically, that when he struggled early on in his time in Milwaukee, it was Ueck's constant encouragement that helped restore his confidence.
He one of the guys to make me feel like that. That's why it's so painful. And you know, it's painful, but at least I can tell him how much I love him.
And Natalie and Jessup, plenty of other current and former Brewers very emotional today. You'll hear from them coming up in about 10 minutes. But for now, let's send it back over to the studio.
It's stories like that that show he made those connections from the time he was a little kid all through his life.
Jessup, good evening. We are seeing our first signs of recovery within the last few minutes or so. Some street lights right above us have come on, and in the distance down the street behind our camera, the Quick Trips lights have just come on within the last couple of minutes. You can see crews behind me. They are at work continuing to try to restore power, but it will be a heavy lift, as Drew showed you on that radar and as Sheriff Dale Schmidt told us in a press conference a little bit ago. The northern half of Juneau, here where we are, and the southern part of Mayville were hit really hard by this storm. We've been in Juneau all day, and we have seen some really significant damage. We first stopped at the USDA building northwest of the city. There were trees everywhere, large trees that were toppled. The people living next door had windows shattered on their garage, a massive tree uprooted. They even had a stop sign that landed in their yard. Further down the road, we met Greg Kuhn. He and his wife are retired teachers, and they've been in their home for more than 35 years. He says this was by far the worst storm he's ever experienced. We saw about 3 maple trees fully uprooted. There was also a power line down across their home. He described what he saw once the storm passed.
Where the power went in, there's damage there. I can't really see the front, by the front door there, but there's damage there. At least we don't have anything that punctured into the inside of the house.
The Sheriff Dale Schmidt told us a short time ago in that press conference, despite significant damage to homes and businesses, only one person was injured. He says those injuries were minor, and while there is a lot of work ahead, he used one word to describe how he feels.
Blessed. We're blessed. We had somebody looking over us from on high here tonight, and while there's a lot of damage, we're blessed at this point that we haven't discovered anything serious. Things can be replaced. People can't.
The Dodgeland School District here in Juneau has opened up its doors tonight to serve as a shelter for people who've lost their homes. However, despite the encouraging signs of lights coming on here near downtown Juneau, Sheriff Schmidt says it's going to be a heavy lift ahead. They expect some people in this area will be without power for the next 2 days. That's it from here in Juneau. Jessup, let's go back to you in Milwaukee.
Great perspective there from Sheriff Schmidt.
Natalie and Jessup, good evening. Within the last hour, the Senate has passed a budget bill by a 19-14 vote. 5 Democrats joined 14 Republicans in getting the bill over the finish line in that chamber. It is now being taken up in the assembly behind me. The reason there is urgency on this late night at the state capitol is $2 billion are at stake. That is related to a provision in the federal budget bill still being debated in Congress in Washington that would cap states from being able to raise the fees that they charge their hospitals. For Wisconsin, the rush is to raise that fee that they're charging hospitals right now to the highest level possible under federal law. And if they're able to do so with federal matching dollars, that would mean an extra $2 billion for Wisconsin hospitals. But getting to this vote that we're now awaiting in the assembly has been a very delicate dance. Both Governor Evers and Republican leaders worked out a deal that does include key items for both sides. For Democrats, that includes increased funding for K-12 education, particularly money for special ed. There's also a funding boost for the UW system, and there is money for direct state aid going to child care providers. For Republicans, their big items are a tax cut that mostly affects the middle class. There are also fewer restrictions on child care providers, including letting 16-year-olds serve as daycare assistants. And there would be a cap on the number of positions within the UW system. Still, just now on the Senate floor, there was a twist. The Senate President, Mary Felskowski, a Republican leader from the Northwoods, voted against this budget. She says this hospital language is nothing more than a giveaway to hospitals that does nothing to lower the cost of health care. Can you still beat this drum in the fall and get reforms later?
I've been beating this drum for 4 years, AJ. I'm not stopping now. Of course I'm going to beat this drum. But that means you have to have a governor who's not in bed with special interest like the hospitals to actually sign a reform.
What we have on the floor today is better than it would have been if Senate Dems had not been at the table. But let me be clear, it is not perfect.
And tonight in debate, we have heard from Democrats as well who are saying they're going to vote no on this. A common message from them is they believe there is not enough of a funding increase for schools. Still, leaders in both the Democratic and Republican parties say it is their expectation they do have enough votes. We saw it in the Senate, and we're now expecting it in the Assembly, that there will be enough yes votes to pass the budget tonight. From there, it is possible that Governor Evers will sign this budget overnight or very early tomorrow morning because in their view, it is a race against time to sign the Wisconsin budget before President Trump signs the federal budget with that hospital provision. We will be here as long as it takes, but that is where we stand right now in Madison. Natalie and Jessup, let's go back to you in Milwaukee.